Welcome to the Land Records Educational Webinar Series, and thanks for attending today's webinars. Assessors, getting the most out of your GIS. I'm Brent Jones. I'm part of the Land Records team, and I'll be your host. We have presenting today with us J.D. Overton, who's also part of the Land Records team. ArcGIS is in the vast majority of assessors' offices across the country, but it's often underutilized. We hear, "I wish I knew I could do that," all the time. That's the purpose of this webinar series, to help you understand what you can do and how to get started. Esri invests over 27% of revenues into research and development, which means that the capabilities of the platform grow rapidly, and it's hard to keep up with all the new off-the-shelf capabilities. That's why we're hosting these webinars, so hopefully we can all keep up. Why ArcGIS? ArcGIS is a platform for solutions, apps, maps, and enabling an organization to share and collaborate. The ArcGIS for Land Records solution gives you access to your valuation of property data across your department, in the field, and allows you to share it securely with other departments. You may have heard that GIS allows you to access your data anywhere, anytime, and on any device. ArcGIS for Land Records is a purpose-built solution that gives you efficient parcel editing and management capabilities, helps you better manage field operations, and helps you understand the status of work in your office. For advanced users, ArcGIS provides robust spatial analysis capabilities and gives you the ability to discover trends and patterns, enhance valuation capabilities, and defend appeals. There are many camera providers across the country, and one size doesn't fit all, and we recognize that. So we developed an easy-to-deploy set of tools for integrating with all camera systems to give you the ability to leverage your GIS regardless of the tax and appraisal systems that you use. Thanks to new capabilities in ArcGIS, integrating with CAMLA is no longer complex. If you're not familiar with the term COTS, it means commercial off-the-shelf, which really means that you don't need to do a lot of custom programming to implement the solution. Importantly, you don't have to have custom integrations and custom workflows to support. ArcGIS for Land Records is built on open standards and best practices. JD will explain this, but what we have done is develop a set of apps and maps and capabilities on the ArcGIS platform that is template-based and easy to deploy. When we deliver a new release of the platform, the maps and apps and all the capabilities will be updated so you don't have to. If you build a lot of customization, and as many of you know, when the platform is updated, you need to update your systems and all the integrations that you've done, and we've eliminated that burden. So let's take a quick poll. All right, can everyone access your authoritative knowledge? The focus of today's presentation is to show you how the ArcGIS platform allows you to get the most out of your GIS, providing better distribution and sharing of your data to the right audience on the device of their choice. All right, as those come in, we'll move along, and you'll note this is a GoToWebinar meeting, and if you have a question at any time, just type it in the window, and we'll get to the questions at the end of the presentation. With that, we're going to pass this over to JD, who will begin to discuss the platform.
All right, thanks, Brett. Hopefully everybody can hear me and see my screen. So just for those of you that answered the poll question, either no or you weren't sure, what we're going to talk about today is how ArcGIS is a platform that will allow you to enable GIS pretty much everywhere within your organization and externally to external constituents. So how we're going to work through this is through a number of potential roles in the organization So what we're going to do is hopefully show you how our GIS works to connect the dots, your data, the employees, constituents, and other departments. So we're going to show you how ArcGIS can take disparate information and provide the clarity that you need to take action. So the platform provides the infrastructure for deploying WebGIS. And so some of you may be asking, what is this term WebGIS? So let's first start to explain what that is. So there's three common characteristics for a WebGIS. And the first is that it's accessible from any client. So not just, the desktops and laptops in the office, but pretty much any devices, smartphones, tablets, and so forth. So next, the WebGIS is powered by services. So your authoritative parcel data with property characteristics, sales, foreclosures, appeals, assessment neighborhoods, and so on, many other things. These are all published and web-enabled as GIS services, and these services are then supplemented by online content such as imagery, elevations, demographics, and many other things that we can supplement using the Esri's Living Atlas to enhance that with base maps, floodplain information, etc. So the third characteristic of a WebGIS is that it organizes your GIS content and manages access through an ArcGIS portal. So providing you with a robust sharing and collaborative model that has a series of identities while still providing you the flexibility to share content with public and external stakeholders through anonymous access. So controlling specifically who sees things as well as security as well as certain capabilities can be enabled through these identities. So looking at this platform, it can provide you with a transformational architecture. So historically, we've seen information kind of get locked up in the back office in the hands of just a few people, and then that's shared with paper maps or so forth. But what we want to do is get that in the hands of everybody in the office. So in order to do that, we provide a number of configurable templates that are designed and based upon best practices. So all of these capabilities can be controlled by groups and users, and it can be distributed by responsibility and authority. And also, it can give everyone access to the tools and the data they need at the right time on the right device. So if we look at our series of solutions that we have, first, we see that we have one in the area of data management. And so this particular area with data management is designed for managing parcels, creating map books, a number of different things as well. Let me get this little guy out of the way here. Okay, much better. So data management, we also have field mobility, so getting access to your data in the field on the devices of choice to control workforce management, who sees what work, who gets assigned work, as well as taking notes in the field, capturing data, pictures, etc. as attachments. Other things that we can do as well is we can help you gain insight from your data through mapping permits, through property appraisals, through visual property values, visualization of your property characteristics or CAMA variables, as well as providing you with apps that could be used internally as well as externally, such as a residential comp finder. So engaging the public is gaining much more prevalence in the assessment offices, and we have a number of apps to provide modern public access, another one to help identify flood risk, which is a big thing right now in my area. I live in the St. Louis area, so we're experiencing a lot of flooding and high waters here, as well as ways to submit apps for creating assessment appeals, for filing those inside the office, and so on. So these apps are all configurable. They can be downloaded and then leveraged inside of your organization. So the ArcGIS Portal is something that could be configured and deployed to meet your needs within a few minutes. The portal is the hub that connects all the data to the users and analytic tools that help them access the data they need, as well as make better decisions about the data. So ArcGIS empowers pretty much everyone in the assessor's office. ArcGIS can empower them to discover, use, make, and share maps on any device, anywhere, anytime. So let's take you through some of these different roles in the organization and how ArcGIS might be applied to them. So the foundation really of any ArcGIS platform implementation is an authoritative system of record. So assessment organizations want to have parcel editing workflows that are efficient, that have a tracking mechanism of the transactions that are going on, who's doing the work, where is it going on, how long the work is taking to do, to keep up to date on that work. The platform also is the place you can start to be more proactive. So instead of just creating maps, you can start to use analytical tools to validate assessments. The property workflows can also be managed through a job tracking system, and that could go back as far as the recording of the legal document, and then continue on through the workflow to the actual individual editors as well. So there's also a large suite of solutions that go with this. One of those I'll talk about now, which is the COTS parcel editing solution that can be configured with a workflow management system to organize and streamline the life cycle of product or property transactions. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So as the analyst, typically your mappers are going to need a solution to manage parcels. So we have a solution that can be configured. We have a specific toolbar over here called the parcel editor that operates on a well-defined standard-based parcel data model called the parcel fabric. And you can see here that in this data model, it models very common things that you'll find, such as subdivisions, condominiums, where the tax parcels are. We're also seeing in this particular map how the lots were deeded and recorded. We're also seeing tax parcels. So the lots remain as platted, but the tax parcels can change. And also we have ways of inherently managing history. So these little blue polygons with the cross-hatching is denoting the historic parcels. So you can go back in time and see how those parcels looked at a certain time. So in terms of editing, we have a suite of workflows that are very common, the common ones that we find in parcel editing, and these guide the editor step by step through the editing process and create a best practice as well as repeatable workflows to help streamline that process. So in terms of integrating the workflow management system, we have an extension called the Workflow Manager that could be configured to track the entire life cycle of the editing. So for example, here I have a workflow that could essentially start in the recorder's office with the receiving of a document. So that job would be initialized when the document is recorded. Obviously not every recorded document that comes in has to do with a parcel transaction, so there would need to be a review of that document. So I'm going to set this review as the current step. And so within this workflow management system, you can link to other systems such as a document management system, or you can embed attachments directly into the workflow so we can see actually a scanned document has come in describing a merge or a consolidation of parcels with the legal description. So this could continue through this workflow down to a decision tree. So if the map doesn't need to be updated, that could strictly, if it was just a straight conveyance, it could go into the CAMA system. It wouldn't have to be touched by a mapper. But if it does affect the map, they could answer the question, yes, the map needs to be updated. From there, an area of interest would be defined, defining where the work is done. Then it would go into creating a map document such as the one you see here that's configured for the editor with the particular data they need, the version for the edits that they need to make, and it would actually even launch up the editing program such as ArcMap to allow them to do that work. So tracking that workflow entirely through the system can be very powerful to find out how things are proceeding in the organization. So another thing that the analyst is going to typically do is they're going to be the ones that provide the foundational services and publish the maps and data for the rest of the organization. So they're going to take your maps and data and then serve that out to the public or to the internal departments. So I have a map here with a series of layers related to an assessment office. I have foreclosures, I have sales, appeals, I have the property polygons as well as assessment neighborhoods. And so with just a few clicks, I can actually share this with the organization. If I scroll down here, I can pick specific groups that I want to share this with. So I could designate this to actually go into just a field group. I could publish this to an open data site that could be publicly accessible to public developers, other departments and constituents, as well as just keep this internal. So with just a few clicks, I can analyze this map, make sure that it has what it needs to be published, and then publish this into the portal and share that with the organization. So another key thing in order to get the most out of your data is you're likely going to need to integrate the polygon parcels with CAMA characteristics. So this is just an example of joining that data brought in from the CAMA system to the parcel polygon data, and that can be done either interactively or it could be scripted nightly as a process that runs in off hours to keep that data constantly up to date and keep it current. Another area that could be leveraged in the professional GIS area is modeling. So you could create models that would help validate your assessments. So this particular model takes sales data and compares that to the existing property values within a particular assessment neighborhood. It derives a sales ratio for those and then shows you the results. So just in the essence of time, I've already executed this model. So we can see that within this particular assessment neighborhood that has been identified, there are 4 new sales. We can see what the sales ratio is and see how that affects the property values within that particular assessment neighborhood. So again, this data could be then shared further or just simply analyzed directly within this particular platform. So from the analyst, let's move on to another role we commonly find in the organization. And a lot of accounts that we engage with, there's usually someone there that is in charge of management of appraisal and the mapping divisions. And not everywhere they're called the chief deputy, but usually there's somebody in this role that needs to have visibility into factors, that influence the current assessment. So when they sign in to the ArcGIS platform, they need to see maps that give them direct insight into what's going on. So one of the examples here, I've got a suite of these. One could be, how are sales affecting the current assessment? And so using this particular map, we can start to identify over a couple of year pattern. There's some hot spots that are here. This particular map, as I continue to zoom in, we can take a look at any of the individual sales, compare what their sales ratio was, find out what the transaction amount was. And we also have created behind the scenes several summary layers. So if I click out here, I can get a summary of the entire assessment neighborhood to see what the total current assessed value is, what the change over the last period was, what are the current taxes owed, how many sales there were, and what was the average sales ratio in that particular assessment neighborhood. If I click on the next value and I zoom to this, I can get a summary of the entire taxing district. So how many foreclosures were there, how many appeals, how many sales, the assessed value, and the tax revenue change. So you may be seeing this number of foreclosures is a very high number. This data that we're looking at was captured over the 2004-2008 timeframe. So during that time, the market was pretty volatile, and also in this particular area. So just to kind of put that into perspective, it's probably not what you're seeing today, but just to, kind of to show you a time element in a data set, that's one that we show. So this particular map targets only foreclosures, and you can see where the hot spots of those were at the time. And again, I can keep drilling in, get summaries about that. And then if I wanted to look overall at the neighborhoods in general, I can scroll through here. I can look at individual neighborhoods and see what was going on with this particular one that's red, which indicates that the values were declining pretty heavily. So that probably meant there was a number of foreclosures that year. And so within the local tax district, I can look at a summary. So these summary layers could also be generated periodically through scripting, and that could be as often as you need it to be. It could be hourly, daily, weekly, etc. So easy access to maps are pretty important. So the other thing that we want to look at here as possibly the manager's visibility in the work that's happening within the office. So I'm looking now at an application called the Operations Dashboard, and that's one that we use to monitor activity. And so this particular map is showing us a couple of things. So this is the current field assessments. So the field appraisers are going out and appraising properties. And so we can currently see where those are happening. The red polygons that we're seeing here are actually denoting the parcel editing operations that are being tracked by a workflow management system. These can be leveraged here. So as the viewer of this dashboard, maybe I'm interested in only seeing the current appraisals that are still open, or I want to see how many we've actually done today. And so now we can start to see charts are updating on the left-hand side. This is very interactive. So if the data is being updated out in the field and they are connected, that data would be updating my spreadsheet almost in real time, or my map here in my dashboard in real time. So another aspect, and the final aspect here, is if I wanted to look at individual property updates, I could see those, and we can see here in this area there's a number of parcel edits that are actually happening. So this particular role might be somebody that doesn't always do everything in the office. They're likely mobile. Sometimes they have to go sit in for the assessor, public meetings, etc. So they might want to get access to that same dashboard using a device. So for example, I have using a mirroring technology on my iPad, we can see here that my device is now being shown on the screen. So just using the same application, I can just basically navigate the exact same app, use the same filtering capabilities, etc., to get access to this dashboard pretty much anywhere that I have connectivity to the data set. So very powerful ways to just simply go from office to field with apps pretty much instantaneously. So the next thing we want to look at with this particular role is you might have somebody in the organization that assigns field work to people. So another commonly used tool that we find in appraisers' offices is Excel. And so we have an add-in with the ArcGIS platform called Maps for Office. And ArcGIS Maps for Office allows you to take your spreadsheets and map them. So as you can see in this spreadsheet, I have a highlighted row, and that row is actually highlighted on the map. And so as changes are made to the spreadsheet, those will be reflected immediately on the map as well. So there's a direct tie here. So this particular spreadsheet is a list of the properties that need to be appraised for a certain period. So what I could do is I could just get the spreadsheet, I could take these, I could then locate them using my parcel data, and then I could actually share this to the portal. And so when this map and data is shared to the portal, it's accessible from any device. So taking from this particular map, I could share this into the portal. The data would then be web-enabled as a service, and then I could start to leverage that with mobile devices as well as, you know, any device inside or outside the organization. So the next thing we want to do is look at how we might want to distribute that work. So we have a suite of field applications that can be leveraged, and we're going to have a separate webinar on this topic, but I just kind of want to touch on this as we go through this particular role in the organization because I think it's really important. So the first thing we saw was that in the planning stages, you plan on what data you need, and you shared that data with the organization. It could be base maps, it could be base property information to give reference, and we did that with ArcGIS Pro. We might also want to coordinate work, and we have an application called Workforce for ArcGIS that allows you to do that. And so once the work has been assigned onto people's devices, we have an application called Navigator. If you need to navigate from point to point, these are all completely integrated together. So as work is generated, a particular work assignment can be navigated to. Then we have a series of collection applications that can be used once you get to that location. The one we're going to highlight today is called Collector for ArcGIS. There is another one called Survey 123. So that might be something that you could send somebody out for a simple survey, maybe like right after a flood. Is there damage? Yes, no, some basic things that you wanted to capture in the field. Drone to map, I think, is fairly self-explanatory. You have a drone, it flies, it captures data, and then we have ways to process that data. And then finally, back in the office, we already saw a little bit of the operations dashboard and how you can monitor work and activity as that data is coming in. So with that in mind, we're going to take a look at how we might apply that to the field appraisers. So to start with, I'm going to start with my browser, and in the browser we have an application called Workforce. So I would begin by creating a project, and I'm going to open up the project, and so we can see those exact same appraisal points or the field appraisal locations that need to be visited. These can be assigned to individual people. So I could just make a selection. I could highlight these that I need to create assignments for. I can select all, and I can simply create assignments for those. So just to save time, I've already done that for a couple of cases here. So I can pick up all of these assignments on my device. So let's go back to the project for just a second. I want to look at the configuration. So in this particular project, we have assignment types. So we've got commercial appraisal and residential appraisals. Then these are different types that we can assign. I have a series of people that I can assign as mobile workers. And I have a dispatcher, and the dispatcher is the one that does the assignments. And then if I continue over, we have this advanced tab, and this is where we can integrate our other ArcGIS applications into the workload that is being assigned to the individual users. So using this interface, I create the project, I assign the work, I get the users established, I decide on which applications I want to integrate together, and then we pick that up on the device. So now what I'm going to do is I've been, as the field appraiser, I've been assigned some work. So now what I'm going to do is activate my workforce application. So I sign in, and I see that I have some to-do list. So I begin by selecting one of the items I've been assigned. And so I can add some notes to this. So I'm going to start the assignment. And if I click on this little button here, I'm going to use my mouse to hover over this. So this little button right here on the iPad, if I highlight that, that's going to show me that I can do things with this job. So I can navigate, and that's going to open the Navigator app, or I can click on Collect at Location. So this is going to open up the other collector application. It's automatically going to open up the map, and it's going to take me directly to the location that I need to do an appraisal on. So I'm going to click on this point, and there's attributes. So what I'm going to do in the field is I could possibly update values. So here in this particular feature, if I scroll down on the details, I can actually see that there's an attachment here. And so inside this attachment, we can actually see that there's been some damage on this property. So I could take this picture, I could attach it to this particular work, and then send that back to the office. So anytime I need to update values, I could put in a particular update if I needed to. So we can edit this, and maybe I needed to put in a new value. So I'm going to clear that. And so anytime you have a device, we can fully leverage all the capabilities. So I'm going to use Siri here to try to enter the value and say 120,000. So I've updated that value. I can update that back in the data. And so that would immediately be reflected on the dashboard that the deputy appraiser was looking at. So now my feature has been captured and it's been updated. So now I could go back to my workforce app. I can say that I've finished that particular job, and now you can see that that's left my to-do list. So very powerful ways of handling work, capturing data in the field on any device, and just a great way to kind of assign work in the organization. So next, what we want to look at is we want to move on, and now we want to look at how the assessor himself might use GIS in the organization. So I think to start, you know, one of the things that's important to them, of course, is they need to account for all the property and the value, give it an equitable assessment across the board. And so one of the things they might use is the operations dashboard to help them gain insights into what's going on with all the property data. So I'm going to take this dashboard application and I'm going to move that onto my screen. And so this is a configurable application that reads GIS services. So if you remember back as the desktop analyst, I published a map that had parcels, it had assessment neighborhoods, it had foreclosures, sales, and appeals. So I'm directly reading that GIS service to show different layers. So anytime I click on a sale, I've got the dashboard configured to show me individual properties about it, what the sales ratio is, and what the total is. So as filtering occurs, so if let's say that I wanted to filter this to only see the 2007 sales.
Hey, JD, we lost your audio.
Am I back?
Yep, you're back.
Okay, so I must have hit mute accidentally there. So what I was doing there on the screen was I just highlighted a particular assessment neighborhood, and so what it's doing is it's showing me in another widget that's configured to listen to selections. It's showing me what the change in that assessed value was between the current and what the previous assessment value was, and I can see a change in revenue. So in this particular jurisdiction at the time of this data, when it was captured, the assessments were going down because of the foreclosures, but the tax revenue in this particular district was increased basically because they were passing millage taxes to kind of offset the loss in revenue. So again, the dashboard is a great way to simply navigate through your data, see what is there, and interrogate that in a very visual way. So, and again, I can pretty much go anywhere in the jurisdiction that I want and see how things are going. So another thing that the assessor would probably be interested in is, you know, feedback. So from taxpayers, they want to know how things are going, and they want to provide a way to give you know, constituents a way to communicate things back to them. So we have a configurable tax parcel viewer that can be deployed very easily from ArcGIS Pro with a new add-in we have called the Solution Deployment Tool. And so this will spin up this application. It authors the map. You upload your data into the services, or leverage services that you already have published, and this app can easily be accessible. So this is, in this particular case, is going to be leveraging attribute queries. So it's just searching the parcel layer for an attribute with the address. So virtually any attribute that you have in there could be accessed. So from this particular viewer, we can tie in other systems. So this might link into your property record card if it's web enabled as a service, and we'll take an argument such as a parcel number so that, you know, we can actually see maybe a picture, and we might get a detailed, as I said, you know, property record card that's created for that particular thing. So the other thing that they might want to do is they might want to submit feedback about something. So, you know, the neighbor's fence is over my property, my assessment is too high, I don't have the deck you say I have, I tore that down, etc. So just a way for them to provide, you know, comments and suggestions back to the office. So another thing that the assessor might be interested in is recovering lost revenue through foreclosures. So we have a little application called the tax sale. So this could represent sheriff sales, it could delinquent properties, etc. This is a way that you could advertise them via a little map application instead of, you know, or in addition to a list in the newspaper, or just, you know, the list on the website doesn't really give, you know, people a really good idea exactly where they are. So then with this simple little app, you could provide that. It's accessible from any device. And then this reports a little bit about the property, what taxes are owed. If there was attachments, you could attach pictures if you wanted, and so forth. So finally, the last thing here that we want to talk about in relation to the assessor is open data. So a lot of times people want to get access to the parcel data externally. So maybe a developer might want to build an app, you know, title companies, research, etc. Might want to get access to the property data. So you can take services that are enabled in your portal, share those with a group that is enabled for open data within ArcGIS Online. And so then somebody could click on that and that particular data set, and they could start to then interrogate that. So as I continue to zoom in, we'll start seeing the individual features. I might scroll down here, find out what the attributes were. So what's exciting about this open data is once this is published here, it comes with a suite of export capabilities. So essentially it has ETL capabilities on the fly that can write for that person a spreadsheet, a KML, a shapefile, or even a file geodatabase as output, literally without you having to do any programming or any extra effort on your part. So great ways using some out-of-the-box tools and some of our solutions to enable a very good transparency from, you know, the assessor's point of view. So one other area that I want to showcase here is that we have some capabilities within the ArcGIS platform. We have inside of our web application builders, we have some apps that you can build that are very easy. One of them is called a story map. And so a topical thing related to a story map is maybe the assessor might want to get out a story about the work they do or how they do assessments. So these story maps are very easy to do. So one in particular that's topical is FEMA has put out a hazard map of all of the activity with all the current rains and the what's going on this season. And so leveraging the Living Atlas, they're actually showing live weather data in relation to their current information. And so what we're seeing here in this particular story map is where the precipitation is happening. I could go over to this other tab and find out about watches and warnings, the National Flood Map. So just very easily you can take your maps and build a simple little story map that explains exactly what's going on. So in our area, what's happening is this image was taken yesterday on the left, and so you could create a simple little swipe application just like this that has data in it that would show a before and after. So this could be the 2016 assessed values, and on the right it could be the 2017 assessed values. So you could easily create an application that shows before and after. So these apps are very easy to build, easy to share, and easy to use. So, and lastly, in our little tour through the roles in the organization, we would talk about the taxpayer and, you know, what they need and what they want to see out of your department. So I'm going to move my iPad back onto the screen here, and I'll close my Workforce app, and I'll simply just open up my browser window. And so within the browser, let's get the right one. So in my browser window here, this is their view of the tax parcel viewer. And so this particular app, as I said, was easily configurable. And so they can take this app anywhere. They can, you know, while they're traveling around looking at homes, maybe they're a prospective home buyer, and I can't really use the locator on the device. If I move my mouse over this little button right here, this is a Find Me button, which should use the GPS internally as part of the app. But I'm just going to search an address. Maybe I'm looking for a particular property. So a lot of times, you know, users want to have, you know, they want to find out information about properties while they're viewing them. Maybe they're traveling around with a realtor, they're just out on the weekend looking for a house. So here's the exact same parcel viewer we saw before in a device. So another common question, at least around here and a lot in the Midwest, might be they want to know if that property is subject to flooding. So we also have an app that's configurable called the Floodplain Inquiry. So this particular app, you can load in your floodplain data and your parcel data, and then you can navigate this app or use an address just like we had before. And so then I can click on a particular property, and it's going to tell me if it's found to be in the floodplain or not. And we've also done some really nice work to integrate with the DFIRM panel. So if I click on this View FEMA DFIRM panel, it's actually going to open that into the FEMA website, and you can get the authoritative FEMA map that you might need to verify in court or legally whether it's in the floodplain or not. And lastly, the tax assessor and the public might want to be able to find comparable sales while they're looking around. So they find an address, they find that property, and then we go down here and look at the results. So within a mile, there are X number of comparable sales. And maybe I'm interested in buying a colonial style house. So this can be filtered, so narrow down within the subject criteria, within my circle, only the properties that match that criteria. I could further refine this by square footage, by price. So you, as the implementer of this configurable solution, you would decide on the attribute variables or property characteristics that you would want to make available. You might have one of these apps internally that provides many different attributes, and you might want to provide a secondary one that's external that has fewer capabilities or limited attributes for the public to actually use. So that's pretty much the grand tour of the ArcGIS platform in the perspective of the assessor's office. So we have what we call as the Esri land records team an initial operating capability. So those are parcel management, field operations, dashboards for real-time assessment visualization, modern public access, and then tools for CAMA integration. So we also have a suite of enablement things. We have, tech support. We have an EEAP program, which you could sign up for, which is training, it's consulting, etc. We also have project managements. We have Jumpstart. So if you want to learn about a specific technology and have our implementation services people come in and set that up for you, we have those capabilities. We also have premium support. So if you need 24/7 technical support, we have that as well. We also have a very large ecosystem of partners that have a lot of domain expertise in the area of land records and many other aspects of GIS implementation. So we would encourage you to leverage our partner network. So as far as looking at the solution and all the different products that you can implement, I'm going to start in the lower right. So in the beginning, one of the apps that we showed is integrating with Maps for Office or for Excel. In the center, we have a mapping portal, and that portal, if enabled with ArcGIS Online, has open data capabilities. If you wanted to deploy that on-premise, we have security, we have organization of content, self-service mapping where people can make their own maps without having to get the GIS person to do all of them. So on the desktop side in the lower left, we used ArcGIS Desktop. We used the Workflow Manager extension for ArcGIS. We showed you a number of configurable apps such as the text parcel viewer. We showed you a story map. We showed you the swipe configurable app for the change detection. We showed you collector. We also showed you operations dashboard, and then a number of the land record solutions, the tax parcel viewer, the dashboard, the comp finder, the flood inquiry, and the tax sale to show where the sheriff sales are in the organization. So we also have some great users out there that love to talk about their implementations of ArcGIS. We've actually last spring, we had Tyson Fettis from Racine County, Wisconsin, talk about their implementation of the ArcGIS platform. I would encourage you to look them up and see what they have to offer. So this is their public GIS-facing application that they have that leverages our platform to do all sorts of different types of things within the organization. So on behalf of Brent and myself, thank you for attending today's webinar. And so if you have any additional questions, please put those in the chat window, and right now I'll expand this and see if we have any possibly there that we might want to look at.
Yeah, I've been trying to keep up with some of them, JD, and we do have quite a few questions.
Okay, let me see if I can. I think there's a way I can pop this thing out, isn't there? Okay, is there any that you want to take while I'm looking?
Well, I can read them for you if you'd like, if that's going to help while the...
No, I got it here. I finally got it.
Yeah, no, the ones I've tried to keep up with the standard questions. There's some license level questions, and there's a topology question. So starting at the top and working down the unanswered ones would be great.
Okay, so starting at the top with the integration of topology and network when field crews and other office, basically non-GIS users changing, editing. So I think in relation to this particular question, what you're getting at is if you're going to allow access to the parcel data via the web, are people going to be editing the geometry? And I think that in the examples that we showed today, those really aren't going to be editing directly the parcel data. We're talking about, with web workflows, potentially enabling other aspects of data such as sales and field appraisals and so forth. So you probably wouldn't want to enable the parcels for geometric edits. There are ways for you to enable editing on web-enabled feature services with attribute only. So that's probably what we would probably recommend in that scenario. Let's see, a server license is required for ArcGIS Online as a portal. So you can, with ArcGIS Server, we call that now with 10.5 ArcGIS Enterprise, and that does license you the capability to include a portal on-premise. So you could install one internally using your ArcGIS Server license, and that does provide you with a series of identities or named users depending on the license type. So if there is a standard license, I believe that is the standard comes with, I want to say it's like 5 named users, and the advanced version comes with 50. And so then you can add additional ones if you need them. Let's see. Okay, so the next question is how do you tie in with CAMA data and ArcGIS to set up the operations dashboard? Well, our recommendation there would actually be for you to take that data and periodically extract that out and enable it as a web service, so that the data isn't necessarily always live, but it's fairly close. So we could possibly, through views inside the relational database, create a direct connection, but typically what we recommend is that you would create a join, create an external copy of that for viewing capabilities to distribute through the dashboard. So it's Collector and Survey 123 supported on Windows 10. I'll have to look specifically on the website for that. I do know that Collector was recently updated. So for example, here on my Windows machine, I can actually launch that. I got that from the App Store. So this is the map that I was editing as the field person earlier. So it definitely is supported. Survey 123, I'll have to look. I don't know off the top of my head. I can get back to you on that. So again, here's the pretty much the same map there. So let's see what else.
There's one at the bottom, a clarification on your last answer. Can you repeat what you said regarding the number of user accounts for ArcGIS Online and what type of desktop license?
Okay. All right. So user account. Okay. So there's a lot going on here. So ArcGIS Online itself, if you have desktop licenses in your organization, you have what's called a desktop entitlement, which means that you have a named user associated with that desktop license that you can provision either into ArcGIS Online or into an ArcGIS Enterprise deployment, which could be internal. Now, the enterprise deployment itself, which was, similar to 10.4 and prior, it was called ArcGIS Server, you have an implementation of ArcGIS Portal that with a standard license, you have a number of provisioned named users, which I believe is 5, type 2, level 2 users, and then if it's an advanced license, you have 50. So as far as what do you need as far as the desktop license? For editing with our parcel editing solution, which would include the parcel fabric or or with geodatabase topologies, that would be a standard license for that. So hopefully that answers the question. And if not, just keep following up in there and we can get back with you. As long as we have a way to, track you and get back with you. Let's see.
I think we're about out of time, JD.
Okay. Some of these, again, if there is a name and a contact, I can follow up with you individually afterwards.
Yeah, and I pasted our emails in the chat window. Mine's pretty easy, bjones@esri.com, and JD's is joverton@esri.com. And we'd like to thank all of you for attending today and taking the time out of your busy schedules. And don't hesitate to interact with us with any additional questions, and keep your eye open for the upcoming webinars. Thank you.